What's going on? A to Z Sports. Sam Phelan here with you for Titans at 2, recapping today the press conference that went down at St. Thomas Sports Park as Brian Callahan, Chidobe Awuzie, and Peter Skoronsky stepped up to the podium, faced Titans media, and answered some questions about where the team goes from here after an 0-2 start. And the overall theme surrounding quarterback Will Levis and the team as a whole at 0-2. Nobody in the Titans building hitting the panic button. I'm going to show you a little bit of what Brian Callahan had to say. And we'll get into all of that, and I'll give you some of my thoughts on where you should be at with the Titans' young quarterback right now. But before I do that, going to let you guys all know that today's show is brought to you by Lipscomb University and the Lipscomb Sports Analytics Department. Listen, I went to Lipscomb. I know how much Lipscomb can do for you, setting you up to succeed in your career. And with the new sports analytics department, it's where data meets the game. You can analyze, strategize, and revolutionize by turning your passion into profession beyond the box score. So get game-changing insights and career-defining skills with Lipscomb Sports Analytics program, where you'll learn to make the calls that count. They're turning sports fans into data-driven decision makers in the exciting world of professional athletics. They're not just watching the game at Lipscomb, they're changing how it's played through innovative sports analytics. So if you've got an interest in that stuff, it is more prevalent in sports now than ever. Sports analytics and how they affect professional sports, college sports. Lipscomb's doing it. They helped me get in here with A to Z Sports and be able to talk to you guys about all this great Titans content. So, like I said, nobody hitting the panic button on Will Levis. Obviously, the Titans quarterback made some costly mistakes, including a bad fumble in the game. Nobody still really sure what Will Levis was thinking through it. Just felt like his brain sort of short-circuited as the Titans were going in to score on a 3rd and goal, trying to not take a sack now back-to-back weeks that Levis has just made a boneheaded play, to be quite frank, while trying to avoid a sack on 3rd down. After the game on Sunday, Levis said he just needs to rewire his brain to not make that same mistake in that situation, which I think for a lot of Titans fans was a little bit of a scary comment. Like, trying to rewire your brain in the middle of a season as an NFL quarterback, kind of hard. But what does Brian Callahan react to it? He didn't really have much to say about how he can help Will Levis. This video, courtesy of my guy, Teron Davenport.
I don't know. I don't know how to approach that. That's a Will thing, it seems like. All we can do is keep pointing out the situation and how to play it, how to have awareness for it, and what to do with the football. And I think at the end of the day, for him, the biggest thing is just going to be protect our team, and that's part of his job as the quarterback, is to protect our team, and that means protecting the football and not putting us in a bad spot on a decision that you make. And again, I think I need to differentiate too, that there's differences between like throwing an interception that happens. You can throw interceptions, you get sack fumbled sometimes. Those are all part of playing quarterback in the NFL. But it's sort of the unforced errors that have been made that are the ones that we can't have. I'm never going to react that way to Will when he throws an interception, never, because that's how it works. There's days when you make good throws, there's days when DBs make good plays. That happens. But it's the unforced errors that I think are things that he's got to do a better job of just understanding where we're at. We're in field goal range. It's a 3rd down. The play's over. You didn't get anything. It's over. Just protect the ball and let us kick the field goal, and we'll be fine. And that's okay.
So a couple of interesting things, right? He says it's more of a Will thing, but this is the idea that I want to talk about today, mainly because I think Will Levis, I'm going to go ahead and say it, is getting a bit of a bad rap. I think Will Levis is being very harshly criticized, and rightfully so, for his mistakes. But I think we need to be able to separate a Will Levis mistake from Will Levis, the player, and what Will Levis has been able to do outside of those mistakes. I think on Sunday, Will played a really, really strong game outside of the fumble. Now you look back at the fumble in hindsight and realize, hey, there's points on the board that we potentially needed to go and win that game. That's a problem. I would probably I agree with you. As Brian Callahan says, it's an unforced error. We can't have those. But I would be more concerned about Will Levis if he was in the game and just not seeing it. If he was not reading the defense, if he was particularly inaccurate throwing the ball. I don't think he has had, and especially in week 2, didn't have those issues. It was an interception that Treylon Burks should have caught. Treylon Burks should have come down with that ball. And a miscue fumble, boneheaded play. Maybe I'm an apologist, right? Maybe I'm being giving him a little bit too much credit, but I don't think we can treat Will Levis like the Panthers are treating Bryce Young. I don't think we can be like, hey, Will's going to have to get benched pretty soon. He has started 11 games in the NFL. He is still a rookie by all accounts. This is a new system for him in year 2. Completely new offense. He doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins playing at full strength. And Brian Callahan said in the press conference, I have to get D-Hop more involved. But let's be honest, the knee is a factor here. D-Hop does not look like himself. So I would be more worried if Will Levis was in the pocket, had good protection from his offensive line, and just wasn't getting the job done than I am in a game that he managed very well despite pressure coming at him pretty much the entire game. And through 2 weeks of the NFL season, just by the way, Will Levis still the most pressured quarterback in football. And if the big mistakes that we were talking about were football mistakes and not like weird, like lazy lapse of judgment sort of mistakes. And that's ultimately why I want to say that we cannot hit the panic button on Will Levis right now, especially when week 1 to week 2, we saw a good amount of growth from him. Brian Callahan spoke to that a little bit about, hey, he made this mistake. I coach him very hard. I was very mad in the moment, and we can't have it. And I want him to know we cannot have that. What the F are you doing? As Callahan said on the sideline, and the TV caught it very clearly. But at the same time, Brian Callahan said he's got trust in him. He let Will know he loves him, and he thinks that, hey, we saw a lot of positives on Sunday too.
Yeah, just keep coaching him. Sometimes that one surprised me again. I thought we had coached that one, and then just to see his instincts take over in that moment and that to happen the way it did was obviously clearly I was pretty upset about it. I still am. I mean, it's not something that I think is an acceptable way to play. But I think on the flip side is that Will did have a much better game than last week. I thought a lot of things he did, we saw improvement. That part was positive. I coach Will hard, but I do love him pretty hard too, and I think that that's okay. I think we can have those moments, and unfortunately, an intense moment got captured because I'm also the head coach, not just the offensive coordinator, and so those conversations don't always get caught on television, and it happens a lot, but mine happen to be in front of everybody. So I don't regret it, but I do coach Will hard, and I think he's accepting of that coaching, and I thought he did a lot of things a lot better.
Did a lot of things a lot better, had a much better game. Brian Callahan later asked, what specifically did Will do a lot better? He brought up his footwork, said he was more accurate, said he managed the game a lot better. A pretty good list of things that Callahan said were improved from Will Levis from week 1 to week 2. Now, for me, those are the positive signs that I think Titans fans should be taking away. 1-score losses are frustrating. They are difficult to deal with. They will linger in the back of your mind for this entire NFL season unless the Titans rip off a bunch of wins in a row and are safely, soundly in the playoff picture. But even then, you might sit there and say, we could have the bye had we won those 2 games at the beginning of the year. Like, yes, it will linger. Absolutely. But I don't feel strongly enough that Will Levis has been the problem. He has been a problem. His bad decisions at times have been the problem. In Chicago, the pick 6 was the problem. But can we talk about the pressure? Can we talk about the fact that DeAndre Hopkins has 2 catches? Can we talk about the inopportune penalties that get them behind the sticks? Can we talk about the way that they have not been able to be great on the ground, particularly in the second half. They've not run the ball well in the second half. We need to talk about all of those things too, because those are the cogs in the wheel that help make Will Levis successful and help any quarterback. Brian Callahan, a little bit from today's press conference on the pressure coming at Levis.
The pressure impacts everything about playing quarterback. I mean, that's just what it is. We've got to do a better job there. I got to do a better job of trying to help those guys as best I can with the play calls and situations we're in. End of the game when you got to throw it. I mean, here it comes, and that's just what it is. And you got to be able to handle that. And we didn't do as good a job as I think we're capable of doing, and that's an area that has to improve. I think part of that affects the quarterback as well. I mean, it's all tied together. That's why football's a great game, is that you need everybody on offense doing their job, and for everything to look the way it's supposed to. And it's hard to overcome it if every other play there's one person that doesn't do it the way that we're supposed to. And I think we have a lot of that right now that we have to keep hammering and keep fixing, so we can get all 11 guys doing things consistently.
What's a reasonable expectation for?
So, the pressure. Peter Skronsky said at one point, we're not giving Will a shot to make plays, and mentioned how they're still trying to work through techniques to figure out what technique works for everybody to make a play function. So the whole unit has been underwhelming and disappointing and frustrating. But I think if you look at how Will did in Chicago versus how Will did at home against the Jets, you will see significant improvement, like Brian Callahan said. So do not hit the panic button, if for no other reason, because of that and because of the games that you have coming up. The Green Bay Packers come into Nashville this next weekend, which normally would be a formidable and scary opponent. And while the Packers did win this weekend and ran the ball very effectively, Malik Willis, old friend, heads into Nissan Stadium, most likely as Green Bay's starting quarterback for another week to lead them. So if you lose to Malik Willis, all right, I'm with you. We're gonna be having a different conversation. But you've got some winnable games coming up. You really, really do. And I just don't think some of these anomalies, right? Like Brian Callahan has said, I'm not sure I've ever seen a punt get blocked in 6 years. And he got a punt blocked in back-to-back games that directly led to points for the opponent, right? That is an outlier. Even if the Titans just have bad special teams, blocked punts are literally so statistically uncommon that it feels like there must be a correction for the Titans throughout the rest of the year. I would say the same thing goes for these weird, stupid, unforced errors that Brian Callahan talks about. Because again, Will Levis is not misreading the defense and throwing the ball right to a linebacker and throwing an interception, right? He's not, holding the football and not seeing guys when they're open and getting sacked because of it. He's just making some flash bad decisions that end up turning the ball over, even though the defense isn't forcing them. So I'm holding out hope. I think you should too. I think it's far too early, and you need to look at some of the other teams around the league that are 0-2 and do not write him off just yet. I will be the first one to admit when I'm done on the Will Levis train, when I'm fully out and I don't see it coming. I think it's too early for anybody who is smashing the panic button. And I can tell you the Titans certainly are not. All right. That's all for me today. Nice, good, quick one. I'll be back Tuesday evening for A to Z Sports Primetime. So Tuesday evening, come check me out. I'm going to be talking a little bit more in depth about this and what the Titans need to do to beat the Packers. A to Z Sports Primetime tomorrow. Austin Stanley will be on with Easton Freeze on Tuesday morning for the A to Z Sports Morning Show. And of course, written article content as well as social media video at A to Z Sports. Tighten up. Till next